Welcome to another live session on Oak and Rock Fatherhood. I'm the Oak and Rock, Anthony's the Oak and Rock, and this is our show. Being a strong dad with deep roots, it's not about who's what, who's the tree, who's the rock. What this is about being a hard, strong dad who has deep roots and connection with his family. When the winds of emotions blow, it doesn't take you, with it like a kite. You're an oak, you're grounded. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about anger. We're going to be talking about the two types of anger that we're seeing. We're living in an age where there's a lot going on and there's a lot of reasons to be mad, but there's a lot of men not knowing how to control that anger for productive energy and fuel to getting what it is they want and becoming the change they want to see. So we're going to talk about the difference there. We're going to talk about how, if you're on the emotionally unstable side of the house, how you can bring it back to channeling that towards being somebody who has some anger in them, but it's a good anger. It's a healthy anger, and that does exist. And we're going to talk about how you can harness that. But before we get to it, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you spread the good word, because what Anthony and I are doing is what a lot of people are not doing. We're being strong dads talking about fatherhood. We're removing the taboo and the stigma around what it is to talk about being a parent. And today we're going to talk about being an angry father, an angry husband, or an angry man. This applies to everybody, because if you can harness this now as a man before you have a family, by the time you have children, you have a spouse, you have love in your life, and you're bringing these beautiful lives up in the world, you'll be able to teach them what you've learned. And so the aim is to be proactive here, but for some of you, there's going to be some corrective maintenance and some reactions, but that's okay. That's why we're here. We're going to talk about it. Anthony, before we dive into anger, how you doing, man? You don't look angry right now. That's a good thing.
No, I'm not angry during the Oak and Rock live streams. Definitely not, man. But I'm doing well. No complaints. Life is good, and excited to talk about another important topic.
This is an interesting one because oftentimes a lot of negativity is associated with it because it's anger. You're an angry man. That's one of the insults. If you're not compensating with your truck, you're just an angry man who's mad at the world because insert whatever, argument that's being presented against you. But when we look at it, it's very different. There are a lot of angry men who are mad at reality not matching expectation. They're mad that the process is more difficult than they thought it would be. Or they're mad that the standard that's placed upon them is not fair. They don't think it's fair that some people get things a certain way and they don't, and it's just not fair, and I'm pissed off about it. They're kicking the ground. They're stomping their feet. They don't like the way the country's running. They don't like what's on the news. They don't like what's going on in the world, and they're pissed off. But they're not putting it towards any way of fixing it. And with what I see, and again, we're living in the United States of America, you and I. And so inside this country, we had a space today where we were talking about we have every opportunity to create the life that we want. You and I are living it. It's an opportunity presented to every man. But most of these men are so caught up in the cycle of being mad about what's wrong with the world that they forget to see what's right with it. And importantly, they forget that they can change and they can help shape their inner world and then their outer world and then their extended world by focusing their efforts on fixing it themselves, on leading themselves to a better place. And so when we talk about anger, when I say righteous anger to you, what does that mean? What do you think that righteous anger comes from? Because I want to make sure we're separating between the two. It's not just being pissed off.
Yeah. No, I think it's, there's righteous anger. There's anger that's healthy, right? We can have an emotion. We can have anger within our body. And it doesn't have to be something that's destroying our soul. It doesn't have to be something that's taking over our mind, that's making us do things that are unfavorable, especially to the people we love, to our kids. So I think it's a healthy outlet, right? To when somebody wrongs you, to be angry. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's an emotion. It's a feeling that overwhelms your body. And I think you do yourself a disservice when you are angry and you try to suppress it. That's when it comes out distorted. That's when you harm people that you love. And speaking about fatherhood, that's when you harm your kids, right? That's when you do hurtful things to your kids. When you get angry over things that are really so insignificant in your life, but you allow it to take up negative mental space. You allow it to make you get angry and to lash out at them. A healthy anger or a righteous anger would be expressing what's going on in your mind without hurting others, right? Being able to say, hey, I'm upset right now. This bothers me. to not suppress that, not hide it, but to deal with it and then move on, find solutions.
Well, would you say that what we're doing, to a degree, every episode has been a sense of righteous anger? We don't like the way certain things are operating. So what did we do? We started talking about it. We started sharing, like, hey, it really pisses me off that people are hitting their kids. And,
Absolutely.
while we have worked on our approach to ensuring that we're not just saying, hey, it's bad to hit your kids, but explaining here are the benefits to not hitting your children. Here are the things that are going to help you better improve your relationship. I think that's taken some off the defense. And so when we come at them and we're like, look, this is really bothering me, and we need to look at other ways to do it, they can then receive them like, you know what? Maybe these guys, they're onto something, and their anger is not directed at me, it's directed at the action.
Yes.
And this is where I think we've lost the ability to argue ideas, because people take it personally. If I say, hey, I don't believe you should strike your children in any way with any sort of device, you should not hit your kids, they think I'm saying you are a bad person, you are wrong, you're a horrible parent, these very personal attacks. And it's like, look, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at all the things you had to go through for you to believe that this is the right way to raise your kids. I'm mad that the society promotes this. I'm mad about a lot of things, but it doesn't make me an angry person. That's just a fuel that, it sort of inspires me to want to do what I do. And there's a reason we're here, man. There's a reason we're living the lives we're living. There's a reason our family interacts with us the way they do. There's a reason that a lot of the issues we see with a lot of people, we're not going through. We have our own issues. We have our own variations of those problems, but they're not the major ones that are caused by conflict in the home, because we don't allow that to come in here. And so even when our kids are angry, they understand that they're allowed to process that. They're allowed to feel that emotion. It is an emotion. It's a human natural thing to feel anger. You see red, that's normal. But what you do with it, that's where things get a little abnormal. You repress it, you push it down. You think there's something wrong with you. You try to hide it, or you lash out and just burst into, either a violent outburst physically or emotionally. And that's where we start to see real issues, is that it's held in until it erupts. And we were joking before we hit record, it's like a fire. Controlled righteous anger, you can have that fire. You can cook food with it. You can use it to clear out, bush. You can use it to clear out things that are in the way. Like, fire can be used for great things. Get a flamethrower, have some fun, melt all the snow off your driveway from just standing there in a lawn chair. That's awesome. That's righteous. That's contained fire. And that's why certain men, even though they come across as angry, look at somebody like Sean Whalen. He comes out with a problem like, I'm pissed off at this, I'm pissed off at this, and here's what I'm working to do to fix it. Yeah. Here's the problem, here's the solution. That's controlled fire. Some men, they're angry and the fire just rages. It takes out the animals, it takes out the trees, they burn their house down, but they're like, well, I feel better. I got that out. Well, that's good, man, but you have destroyed everything around you because you were so angry. You didn't harness that at all. And there are some family men, unfortunately. There are a lot of men out there who don't know how to harness or how to channel it in any proper direction.
Yeah, no, and that's where the emotional instability comes in. I mean, if you go back to what you said about us, right? We have an issue with grown men hitting children or abusing children to any degree. And if we weren't able to control that anger and spread it in the way that we do with our message and parenting better and being a better man and improving yourself to improve the family, there would be zero men who have reached out to us and say, hey, thank you for helping me change my life. Thank you thank you for letting me see to parent with my eyes open for the first time ever. And to understand that when I get angry and I hit my kid or I send them to their room and I don't hear their side of the story, I don't care about what they're going through. It's just my emotions that are important, right? I stopped doing that because I heard what you guys were saying. So that to me, that's a righteous anger. That's we're getting angry about an issue we see going on in the world that we think needs to be addressed. And we have solutions, right? We're not running around stamping our feet and telling dads you're an asshole. We're saying, hey, man, well, not all the time, but we're saying, hey, listen, we've taken the steps to improve our lives. We've helped our children to think better, to find solutions, to cooperate with us. Our home is one of peace. And I think when we talk about the anger, we talk about the emotional instability, There's so many men who avoid being honest and truthful in their home, and they let all the distraction outside fuel that anger. They see all this crap that's going on, all the dysfunction, all the degeneracy, and honestly, they worry, right? They're afraid of what's going on. But at the same time, their house is a complete mess. So now you have men who are in this struggle and they don't know what to do, right? They have no outlet, they have nobody to connect with, and they keep it in. And what do we tell most men, and especially young boys, right? Oh, you got to control your anger, you got to keep it in. I think that's dangerous, man.
It's like it's kettle, like one of those pressure cookers, man, and it's just going to
Yeah,
freaking erupt, and it just builds and it builds, and then you see this outburst. You're like, well, I didn't see that coming. I did. How does a complete stranger, a dad, a million miles away from this kid who has no idea anything about him? I could see it. You could
yeah,
see it. I guarantee. You put him in front of us, we sit there like issue, issue, issue. Let these kids breathe before they erupt like a volcano.
yeah. Well, it's suppressing emotion. And that's what we see with all the young people throughout history. They've all been told to shut up, to not step out of line. And if you go back a few generations, there was always the outcast, right? Whether it was the greasers, depending how far back you go. Now, in this day and age, we have the I don't want to throw any bad labels,
Here we
but
go,
we, we,
man.
we have the hypersensitive, Antifa writing, emotionally uncontrolled young people who are fighting for more government, more control. They don't even know what's going on. They're completely absent of any rational thought, and it's nothing new, right? It's like a pushback against authority. But every generation, we say, "Oh, the kids are fucked up," and it just continues and it continues. And what we're missing is in the home, if we can show our kids the the I guess a good example of what it means to be a man who is in touch with himself, a man who knows that he doesn't need to abuse his power over those who survive, depend on him. That it's okay for you as a father to be upset or angry about the position of your family if things aren't working out. That doesn't mean that you lash out and beat your kids or you scream at your wife every night. It means that you find solutions to make the situation better. You use that anger as fuel. That anger does not become who you are, right? It's there for a reason. It's like a signal. A light bulb goes off in your head, and you can choose to burn your home down, or you can choose to start taking the steps to build it back up and make it better.
Well, one of the things that really drives me insane, and it ties in well with that, is adults are willing to look at the kids, but they're not willing to look at the adults. If you're angry, if you're going to lash out at children for what they're going through, playing too many video games, watching too much TV, the kids these days, they're so soft, whatever. If you're willing to say all that, that's you losing emotion as a man. You're going to choose to go after the kids. But righteous anger, why aren't you pissed off that we're sitting here listening about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard? That shit's all over TikTok. Almost every single aspect of that trial is on TikTok. Yet we can't talk about Maxwell. And we can't talk about Epstein. We can't talk about the case that had to do with kids, taking advantage of kids. We can talk about Ukraine and Russia, but we're not going to talk about how the war that is basically human trafficking, where we're exploiting all these war-torn nations, stripping the children from their homes, and they're just being trapped. They're disappearing. The invisible kids, they're just disappearing. Where do you think they're going? They're going to these sick pedophiles. They're going to these sick individuals who are looking to take advantage of children, either sexually or to put them into child work labor. And hey, build this iPhone, kid. Oh, and guys, make sure you have the newest edition of your phone. Oh, I love these phones. I love these things. Steve Jobs is the fucking man. Really? Is he really the fucking man? How far down the rabbit hole are you willing to go with that? You'll cancel Disney, but you're not going to go without your phone that was built by a little kid who made a dime a week. Why? Because it's easier to be angry at these superficial things. It's easier to look like you give a shit at like, oh, Disney, you're trying to make everyone gay. Well, look at everything going on in Hollywood. Look at all the women who were molested or taken advantage of, where you had to sleep with the director to get your spot. Look at the kids on Nickelodeon who are all starting to come forward saying, hey, they're sexually exploiting a lot of us. There's a lot of sexual innuendo in all these very innocent shows. I was listening to something with Andy Frisella today, and they were talking about how SpongeBob's license on a few episodes, the address is the Epstein compound. You know,
No.
dude, like literally not made up. It was the lawyer for a few people. He was talking about it. And so you see these things and you're willing to get upset at your kid for being on the TV too much, but you're not willing to sit down and say, you know what, kid, you're sitting in this environment where this is being marketed to you, but I'm fucking pissed off. And like, look at all these adults. Go forward, go talk to all the other parents and tell them, hey, we're not teaching critical race theory. We're not teaching our kids how to be gay. We're not going to teach our kids how to become the opposite sex. You can teach children healthy sexual reproduction. I had health class. Hey, here's your balls. Here's your penis. Girls have a vagina. Nice. That's fantastic. We should learn about anatomy. It's the human body. It's natural. But we should not be saying, hey, kid, have you ever felt sensitive? It's probably because you're a girl. Did you know that? Come here, Ryan. Your new name, it should be Tina, shouldn't it? And all of a sudden, your kid's like, what the fuck? Am I a girl? Do I feel like this? And the parents are like, oh, well, I don't want to come across as, transphobic. Man, get mad that they're going after your kids and sexuality. Get mad that they're trying to keep you down. Get mad that the government's taking all of your fucking money and you feel like that's a great thing. Good job, government. Where did that money go, though? Oh, we don't fucking know. Your roads are still shit. Your companies, when the world shut down, your mom and pop shops, they didn't get any fucking money. So where did it go? Where did all the shit that you're paying into? Why aren't you pissed off at that? You're willing to throw down at somebody who's fucking local, is not going to give you a discount. You're willing to go after, whatever politician on Twitter, but you won't go vote. You won't get a campaign. You won't run for council. You won't sit on your city's committee. You won't do the real work, but you'll sit there and be, Twitter, fuck this guy. Oh, let me go over here on Facebook and share this story about Elon. This guy's fucking trying to buy Twitter and shit, and he's going to give us free speech or somebody's going to come save me. Dude, it's okay to be frustrated with these things, but if you're just lashing out and yelling and all of a sudden you're finding a way that it's somebody else's fault or it's the kid's responsibility to fix this and it's their fault that things are the way they are, you're missing the entire point that as an adult, you were the only person who's in a position to change this. And these things that you see that are wrong, you can go forward and make changes. You can be a part of the solution. This was all going through my head, dude. I told you, this came up when I was in the car ride. All of this was like in my brain. I had to get it out. Because I look at these guys they're talking about everything that's wrong and they have so much time to tweet about it and to go on it and write these big, long paragraphs about it, but you don't see them doing anything about it. And to me, that's the difference between your emotional outbursts and that righteous anger. I applied to our town's park and rec department because I want to be a part of helping this town be better. That's my righteousness. Like, I'm pissed off things aren't where I want them to be. I'm going to be involved in this. I'm volunteer to get there. With Oak and Rock, there's like a low key mission of mine to get corporal punishment out of public schools. That's something that you're going to see a much heavier push on in the near future because it is that important to me. Like, that is a fucking little thing that bothers the shit out of me about America. We look back to slavery. That's a black, mark on our history. We look back to the internment camps. That's a big black mark on our history. I'm looking at COVID. Big black mark on our history as a country. We did not handle that shit right. I'm not going to allow there to be a black mark on my history of performance as a father for my children. I'm fighting to ensure that future, there's something there for them. And I'm not going to just look it over and be like, oh man, I shouldn't have forced my kids to get a vaccine. No, I didn't do that. It's not that I shouldn't. I'm not going to have regrets on here because I'm acting on it. And I think if men were to act on their righteous anger, the things that piss them off because they know it's just wrong, universally wrong. And that's something I kind of wanted to pick your brain on. But there is a universal right and wrong. There is a truth and a non-truth. Then there's your truth. And, we can kind of get to that. But I think that when you look at those universal truths of what's right and wrong, like leave the kids the fuck alone, men should make sure they are taking action on that and not just running their fucking mouths about it's the kids these days.
Man, where do I start?
Let's start with universal truth and your truth, because you said that to me earlier. We were talking about confession, and that shit really, I'm still like the echoes in my head. You really fucked me up with that. I'm sitting there, I'm coaching first base today. We had a middle school game, and I'm sitting here. I'm like, your truth, confession, getting off, being honest, getting it out there. Like, you really had me thinking about that. So I think we can dive into that right now.
No, and the big question is, what is truth, right? That's been trying to be figured out since the age of man. But I think there are well, I know there's universals, right? There's things that are always true. 2 + 2 is 4. We have gravity. We don't know how it works, but it's there and it keeps us grounded. Um, a universal truth would be, I mean, you can take scriptures from the Bible, right? The golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. Don't 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 murder people. Why? Because I don't want to be murdered. I don't want anybody taking my life, so I'm not going to take another's life. Same thing with spanking, hitting. We talk about it all the time. I don't want anybody in my life who's going to physically attack me, so I'm not going to do that to my child. Or they should not accept that as true. They should not accept me saying, I'm your dad, I love you, but I'm going to hit you when you mess up. But if anybody ever hits me, I'll end their life. You can't have that, right? We have to have something that's universal that we navigate our life as a father. And then if you get into, what we were talking about earlier about having your truth, right? There's people who they're so afraid to express their voice or talk about what's important to them. And that's part of that suppression, right? Keeping things in and not being truthful, not being honest. And it doesn't mean that you're always right. Right. It's not, it doesn't mean saying you have your truth. That doesn't mean you're always right. But what it allows people to do is to speak up, to talk about things that are important to them. And when you do that, that's when you can examine if what you believe is actually real, if it's truthful, or if it needs to be changed and you need to improve on your thinking. Right. And that thinking is going to drive you to change your life where you're going to get better results. So when I brought up confession, I was saying what a great tool that was in the Catholic Church. Like you can sit in a booth, you don't know the priest, and you can pour your heart out. You can tell them what's going on, and it allows people for one time in their life to just be honest, to put all this shit out on the table and say, these are things that I fucking hate about myself, or these are things that I did bad, and I'm shameful. And, I think people are judging me and I want to stop. I want to be better. And what do they tell? I mean, unfortunately, a Hail Mary is not going to fix it, but it's just that listening, right? To have somebody know that they care and you don't even know the person and they're going to take some time to listen to you and you can get it off your chest. So I think, that's kind of what I was thinking when I said there's universal truth and then there's your truth. And I think as a man, you have to have both. That's how we improve. That's how we get better. And that's how you change things within your home, right? Because you have a set of principles to live by. We're not going to hit. We're not going to punish. I tell people don't punish their kids. They flip out. Well, how are they going to know right from wrong? How long have kids been punished? Since eternity?
Dude.
Do they know right from
That's
wrong?
That's my favorite, like the one line when you come in, you're like, well, you're saying that kids, they got to be hit to make sure they behave and they do everything right, or they get it right, or they're going to be soft. And they're like, the kids these days are soft and they're getting hit and they've been getting hit the whole time. So how do they ever get soft?
How long
it doesn't make any sense.
This game?
It's like the snake eating the tail. Like I can see their brain just like shrinking and shrinking until they're like, damn, I don't have a leg to stand on. But you brought something up too about speaking your truth. I'm wondering if there's a way to tie these two together, because when I look at it, man, when I think about emotional outbursts, I do see a lot of people saying a lot of things that just piss them off. Screw this, the trending topic of the day. I'm pissed off about that. Screw this guy, screw that guy, screw this politician, screw whatever company, whatever. And then you see those who speak up about families. And while I see them speaking what I would consider a righteous message, a good, universally true message, fathers, be involved in your families. Fathers, step up. We need fathers to get involved. We need more fathers to talk about fatherhood. And it's an anon account.
Yeah.
And you look at it and it's like your words are correct, but your inability to put your face on those words concerns me. If this is a righteous thing to me, which means something that is universally, this is a good thing to everyone except for people who are evil, they would argue with you. Like, oh, we should totally beat kids. Why? Like, I can't come up with a reason. But outside of that, I see these Anon's accounts doing this. Where do you stand on that? Do you believe that you can have a righteous message and hide your name in your face and not stand behind your words?
No, definitely not.
I don't think so either. And,
I think
Hunter Drew, like, and again, anybody that's gonna drop that shit on me, I get it. That was the hardest part about when I was doing this shit. I had the pen name because I was in the military when I started. Like I was active duty military when I first started this shit. I created the blog in 2015 and I had just kept the name from when I was on Reddit. And so I just never changed it. And then it kind of took off. Like Hunter Drew was a brand. Like that name was associated with the Family Alpha. And I was like, all right, whatever. I started working for the government. I was working for the Naval War College. And then I was like, well, I'm a part of like government now. Like I'm literally in the system. I don't want them to like fire me. I got to feed my family. Back when like I was spending 200 hours on the Family Alpha and making like negative $200 because I was just buying equipment and nobody was paying me for anything. And so I was like, well, I don't want to lose my full-time job. And there was that fear of getting fired, even though I knew everything I'd written was true.
Yeah.
And that bothered the fuck out of me. So I started sharing my face. I started sharing my kids. I started sharing pictures of me and my wife. I started sharing our home, our activities, live streams to show the world like I am who I am. You just don't know my name. And then it even got to the point in 2020 where I was like, this is a lie. Either I stand for it or I don't. Either I'm in this or I'm not. COVID had hit. Shit was hitting the fan. I was like, lines are being drawn. I need to know which side I'm on. And I went all in. Like I'm Zachary Small. That's who the fuck I am. Google that shit. Like it's my face that pops up, man. Like that's me. Everything I've been saying is true. But now you know my real name, the real letters at least. There are dudes who are cartoons, man. Their handle is like Super Dad 569, And it's how much can you believe your message if you're still going by a cartoon, you're not showing any receipts, and you're kind of just talking? Yeah. How much can you say you really believe it?
Well, I think there's a lack of credibility, a lack of integrity, and not just in the social media aspect, just within yourself. And I think it's important, again, to go back to your truth. You have one time on this planet, and you need to make sure that your message, your voice, what you speak about, what you talk about, who you show the world you are, you can't hide from it. To me, it borders on that line of like serial killer. Right? Serial killers don't want you to know who they are. You interact
That's all
with
part
them.
of my plan.
No, you'll interact with them in the real world. I mean, on social media or even in the real world. And you have no idea what deep and dark, twisted shit is going on in their mind. And to me, it's dishonest, right? If you have a message, if you want to help save the world, if you want to be a better father, if you want to promote fatherhood and tell other dads to step it up, you have to have a face with the name. You have to have a voice. It has to be real. Otherwise, what are you trying to accomplish? Is it just to make money? Is it just to create a brand?
Well, I think right there, I think you just hit the nail on the head. I don't think you can get the benefits of releasing your righteous anger unless it's known that it's you that's doing it. Because, well, one thing that bothered me is no matter how much I promoted family, no matter how much I fought against everybody and hitting their kids, it was Hunter Drew that was getting that love, not Zac Small. Yeah. And I couldn't share that with local people. Like there was an element where I wasn't getting it. Hunter Drew was. And I think if Cartoon Guy gets it, that righteous anger that they have, they're never going to get the benefit of knowing they went all in. They're robbing themselves of the beauty. Like righteous anger is a good thing to me. You're fucking motivated. Like those are the dudes we roll with. They're pissed off about something that's good though. That makes them not settle. They're always hungry. They're always like pushing for more. While they're content with their life, they want more because they haven't quite solved that issue yet. And so they keep working for it. When they fix that one, when we get corporal punishment out of public schools, let's go to what's the next fucking milestone? Is it getting it out of the homes? Is it making it legal for the country? We'll find out. Stay tuned. But I think that there's an element there where people are not going to get the benefit and they're never going to have that sense of life satisfaction knowing you fought for something that mattered, that you believed in, you went all in on it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be honest about who you are, right? There has to be some truth to that. Otherwise, you don't exist. You're just a cartoon figure on a screen. And I think that comes, a lot of that, I think, stems from childhood. So as a child, and, this is why we talk about being preventative and raising healthy kids. But if you're in an abusive home, whether it's physically and emotionally, a child is going to need to survive. They're going to need to do what they have to survive in that home. So they change who they are to be accepted by the parents. So to me, that's the connection, right? As that child grows up and he becomes an adult, he's so afraid to show the world who he is because that true person was rejected his whole childhood. So how the hell is he going to jump on social media and say, you know what, I'm an adult now. This is what I believe in. This is what is important to me, but I can't show anybody who I am. I can't honestly say that this is me. These are my views. And it's not just for acceptance, right? Well, what happens if people don't accept me? But it's because they're missing that love for themselves, right? That confidence, that inner self-worth. It's not there. And I'm not this isn't just the guys who are anon with cartoon pictures. This is any father who is living a life who his actions are not reflective of the man he wants to be, the father he wants to be, the relationship he wants to have with his kids. He's doing things that are harmful and damaging to his children, to his wife, and he's not owning it, right? He's making excuses. Well, the kids misbehaved. The wife didn't have my dinner on the table at the right time. He makes excuses to compensate for his bad behavior. So he is still a child. The maturity level is that of a young teenager, or a child or a young teenager, and he's never taking ownership of his life. And that's why you see so many young people who are emotionally unstable. That's why you see a lot of adults who are emotionally unstable. They get angry at the littlest things because everything's a trigger, because that's how they were raised. They were raised to be triggered by things that affect them emotionally. The parents never taught them emotional stability. They're never regulated. The parents never even allowed them to feel things. So now when they feel it, they freak the fuck out. They don't know what to do.
Think about that though, because if you had to raise the kid, if you had to help them deal with their emotions, that might make you uncomfortable. And no parent wants to be uncomfortable. And that leads to the dads who say, hey, I'm sorry, your future's so fucked up. I wish I had done more, but I didn't because, well, I didn't really care that much. I don't want to be uncomfortable and have to fix anything. It just really sucks that all these companies are taking your freedoms and taking advantage of you and looking to inject you with things and cover your face and put you in these depressed states and then not be able to afford all the health and mental health that you need. And so therefore, we're going to kick the can down the road. Now you're living under a bridge. Sorry, kid. I wish you had a better life, but I really, really enjoyed my Twitter and I enjoyed my Facebook and I wanted to keep ordering Grubhub. So sorry. And they're like, what the fuck, Dad? You love me so much, but not quite enough to be uncomfortable for me. That's where the line is, some discomfort, and I see, Michael over here dropped the message. The willingness to be out there takes courage. So many accounts with no face, mostly trolling. Great points, gentlemen. Michael, thank you for tuning in. But I want to go back to that first sentence. The willingness to be out there takes courage. Does it? Is it really that courageous for me to say, hey, I'm married to a woman raising my kids and I don't hit them? Are we making this a bigger deal than it is? Because sometimes I think we are. Sometimes I look at what I'm doing. I'm like, this is common sense shit, guys. There's nothing brave about this, except when you're in a world that is so fucking toxic that speaking any semblance of rational and logical and emotion free fueled, expression of truth. Here's what I believe, guys. In a world where they're like, you're not allowed to have your own beliefs. You're not allowed to think that. That's when people start saying, oh, that's an act of courage. For you to go on Twitter and say, hey, I don't believe that we should be paying taxes to a government that doesn't track where the taxes go. Or, hey, maybe we shouldn't have to follow a public servant who's meant to serve me, the public. Maybe we should tell them what to do instead of vice versa. That's not bravery. That's how shit used to work. Like way in the beginning, I think that's how it was supposed to work. That's how they were trying to design the system to work. When they wrote the Constitution, when they wrote, the Bill of Rights, they wrote all these things, there was no fucking Twitter. They had no idea what was coming down the pipeline. They didn't realize that what do they call it? The electronic public forum, was going to be a global centralized place. People across the globe go to one spot. We go hang out in, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, these spots. They go to those watering holes and we talk to each other. And we're like, hey, what's up with you? Oh, I'm getting jabbed because I'm not allowed to have a job if I don't. Oh, well, that's a good idea. Instead of saying that's a really fucking bad idea, maybe we should all collect on these social things and say, no, government, you're not going to tell us what to do. We're going to go make our own choices. That should be the norm. We should be using Twitter to rally troops to push against tyrannical governments. But people are fucking terrified to speak up. So how do we get to the point where people are afraid to be honest? We're at the point literally where there are men on dad Twitter, there are men on the family forums that we roll with. There are men inside our close communities who will not share their message that they share behind private walls on their Facebook because they don't want it associated with their name. How I can't connect those dots. I
How do
cannot
we
connect
fix
those
it?
dots, man. And you know what? When I bring up Hunter Drew, I try to pitch that. That's the closest I came to understanding. But I think now, the longer I've been in this, the more I've realized I will lose my fucking job. It's just a job. I'd rather look my kids in the eyes and say, hey guys, dad, we can't afford the extras because dad got fucking fired because he stood up for his beliefs. As opposed to saying, hey guys, keep enjoying those things, but make sure you know we got our 15th booster
Don't
coming up,
tell
so we just gotta
anybody
make
who
sure
I
we do
am.
that, okay? But we get to keep our money, you know, because that's what's important. The presents I get to buy you, not the presence of a man who's living an authentic life that I can give you and show you and be an example for you to push against tyrannical governments when you're an adult.
Boom.
I just don't get it, man. Like I have a really
No,
hard
I
time with it. If
know.
you
I
love
know.
your family, why can't you share the message that you love your family? Why can't you say fathers should be involved in the home? Men and women are different. You can dig up bones from fucking thousands of years ago. That's a dude because he had like thin hips or whatever the fuck it is. That's a chick because those are wide hips with a broken whatever bone breaks when they have kids. Boom. Men and women are different. That's not courageous. That's fucking I learned that shit in second grade. There's nothing fucking brave about what I'm saying here. Arnold Schwarzenegger, kindergarten cop. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. End of discussion.
Yeah,
Nobody
we
argued
got
that
that.
shit. Now they're gonna get that shit taken off Netflix or whatever the hell's going on because that's not okay. Because we live in a new world. People are trying to change reality. They're trying to change biology. They're trying to change what we know to be true. And people are believing it. And dude, at some point, earlier you said 2 + 2 is 4. They're gonna 1984 your ass and say, no, it's not. And we're gonna be sitting here like, are we fucked up? Are we the ones who are wrong because the whole world lost its damn mind? Or are we gonna be in another different nation where we gotta go like move our asses and our families because we're trying to hang out with people who still understand right is right and left is left, and right is not left.
Yeah, hey, listen, man. How do you create a society where adults have no concept or idea who they truly are? You damage them. Excuse me. You damage them during childhood, right? You make them completely incapable of having any concept of who they truly are when they grow up, and even worse, you you make them believe that their identity is attached to an ideology. I don't care if it's left or right, socialist or Republican, whatever you want to put on it. When when you're a child and you're not able to freely express who you are, be who you are, grow into who you need to become, you're not going to be able to make decisions. You're not going to be able to choose a life that's your own, and you're going to allow people to be in control of you. So I think that's one point of it. And the other thing I would say, Zach, there's guys who promote fatherhood. There's guys who are trying to do the right thing. And I said before, maybe it's about money, but I think a lot of that is a reflection of how stuck they are, right? How broken they are. And I don't think that they're really living the lives that they're speaking about, right? That they can't put those things into action. It's almost like they're jumping on something that's trendy, something that will get them views and get them likes. And I know with you and with inside of FOE, all the men I speak to, right? We get a chance to meet their families. We get a chance to talk to them about real things. And they are who they say they are. And to me, I think that's the best way you're going to get growth and you're going to have success with raising your kids is to be honest. Right? Be honest with who you are. Be honest with what you're doing. Because if you hide for it, if you're putting on a mask for everybody, the only person that you're hurting is yourself, right? And that trickles down to the family. If you're not honest about what you need help with, the areas where you need to grow, you're going to bring some continued generational trauma to your grandkids, your great grandkids. It's never going to stop. And it sounds silly because it's just saying, right, find your voice, speak your truth, be who you are. But that should be the exact message we're sending our kids every day, right? Don't let people stop you from being you. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they say. I don't care what the rules say, what the law says. If somebody is trying to control you and suppress your spirit, push back, fight them, get angry. Don't let them inside your mind. Don't let them destroy your freedom.
So when you're saying that, yeah, our freaking spaces are starting to blend, man. So we've been doing Monday through Friday Twitter spaces. We've been doing videos for Oak and Rock. We had a few calls recently with a special guest we'll be dropping next week on medication and children and labels. And they're all starting to blend in my head. I'm like, do we already talk about that today? Or was that a month ago? Or when was the last time we spoke about this? And which is great, man, because the content's fucking flying. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to repeat myself. And I don't think I said that in this episode, but I might have. And so they're blending a little bit. But it immediately made me think of the guy that was asked. It was Justin Copeland. So big shout out to Justin Copeland, Navigating the Intentional Life. You know, he had asked about how I was rolling with where I'm at and I'm going forward, how I left baggage behind me. And, you know, I think that's a part of the issue with emotional, unstable men who are just lashing out. They don't have that righteous anger, is because they're still carrying that. They're still hitting their kids behind closed doors. They're still yelling. They're still frustrated. There's still a lot of pieces that have not been put where they need to be, but they're putting on the show and they're putting on the persona that they've been able to get it all together and they've got it all locked in. And come on, check out what I'm doing, guys. I'm squared away. And I think it's with the hope that they will unfuck themselves by the time that anybody gets to see the family, but before the fallout happens. And so they're talking about a message that they're not living, but it's the hope that talking about it gets them where they're trying to go. And that is not possible. You've got to do the work. You can do the work while talking, but at no point should you be painting a picture that isn't there. And so if you say, be emotionally stable around your kids, and you log off the screen and you flip out on your kid because they were talking during your Zoom or whatever, you know you're doing the wrong thing. And there's two types of insecure people. There's the first type that just never developed confidence. They just never were in a position. It's like you were saying about the people who always second guess themselves because the parents are always on them and they don't know how to process anger. They don't know how to process anything because they get in trouble when they made any noise and brought attention to themselves. So they don't know how to speak up. The other group is those who do the wrong thing when nobody's looking. They'll litter. They'll hit their kids. They'll yell at their wife. They'll do what the fuck ever. They'll steal money. But online, they try to put on this show. When you are doing the wrong thing when nobody's looking, you've got to keep track of so many lies. You've got to keep track of all these things you did, and you got to hide it because you don't want anybody to find out what's going on. And that means you can't share on Facebook, don't hit your kids, because you know your cousin is going to see it, and you know your cousin was at the birthday party where you beat the shit out of your kid. Like, this is real shit, man. And or at least I believe it is. I can't really prove this. This is all kind of in my head. But I think these same people, that is why they're anon also. Because those closest to them will blow their shit up and be like, no, the fuck you didn't. You spank your kids daily. But you're on Twitter talking about this. Get the fuck out of here, Super Dad 569. Like, that's not fucking who you are. So if they come out and say, yeah, my name is John Smith and blah, 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 like whatever. Like when I shared Zach Small instead of Hunter Drew, do you know what happened?
No, I don't know.
Nothing. Not a fucking thing. My parents check shit out. My siblings check things out. They're like, oh, cool. You spend a lot of time talking about life. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? This is to my family, this is all normal. This is just how we grew up. This is who we are. They know this is who I am. So they don't even understand why I talk about masculinity. They're like, yeah, just be a fucking dude. Like, how do you make money off this? Like, it blows their fucking minds that this shit's not common sense. Because again, that's how we grew up. You know, my sister and I, we were having a conversation about, she's a peaceful parent. You know, she's like, I'm just not going to do that. You know, we were spanked growing up. We had corporal punishment in our home. As kids, we both made that kind of pact with ourselves. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to raise my kid differently. And it's not a shot at their dad. He had it significantly worse than we did. And so each generation's gotten better. And with our kids, I don't know how you get better than what we're doing, but they're going to find a way. But that's one of those things where if I was lying, I could not have shared my name, man. My sister would have been like, fuck that. That's not who you are. My friends, kids, people from high school, people from the Navy, inside FOE, we had multiple men who I deployed with join for a little while. And they were like, yeah, this is who the fuck he's always been. Like, this motherfucker is like level 10, crushing it, leader by example. They could have blown my shit up. Zach was a fucking nerd. Zach beat up a nun. Like, whatever. Like, they could have come out. Like, had I done any fucked up shit, you would have known. And so I think the dudes who are hiding are also hiding because if their local circle finds out, It's going to blow their shit up.
No, 100%, man. And I wow, there's there's a lot to unpack, brother. But I think that, when
You can't help it, man. Like when it rolls, it just like it floods out. I've been thinking about this all day.
No,
like,
I hear you.
For those tuning in, Anthony and I had a phone call. What is it? Around 2:00, whatever, maybe noon. And from then until now, this has been in my head. I'm coaching a baseball game thinking about this. I finally get to sit down and talk it out. And it's one of those things where this is why I really enjoy these discussions with you, because once it's out, I can start to kind of like see the data and I can connect the dots. And there's a lot of things you say that I don't get at first because I got to chew on it. Like, because you don't speak in like simple shit. You're like, hey, well, what do you think about this? And I'm like, fuck, there were like 12 layers to what you just said to me. I need time to break this down, man. And so I come onto the show and I'm like, let's go. I broke it down.
Yeah, and that's the point of this, right? So in order to have influence on not only your family, but the people that you choose to keep in your life, you have to be honest. You have to be truthful. And I think, without that honesty, right? Again, like I said earlier, you'd never be able to help anybody, right? There's subjects that I speak about and I talk about within my family, my immediate family, my home, my relatives, and a lot of them are like, why do you think this way, right? Where does it come from? And I get to share it with them. They might not agree with me, but you plant those seeds, right? I don't want everybody to agree with everything I say, but by no means am I ever not going to say it because people disagree with me, right? I want to have conversations. I want to talk to men about how to raise their children peacefully, how to raise them free from being put on medication as a teenager, right? And being numbed out and dead to life. I want them to experience the very best that they can. And it's because I'm able to share what I've done, right? The things that I've had to sacrifice, the things that I've had to change, the ways that I'd had to look at myself as a man and say, I'm not happy with who I am. I need to improve. I need to make change. I need to look at myself objectively, objective truth, and say, this is not who I am. I'm not the dad who yells and threatens his kids. I'm the man who's going to be the best that I can at being a fucking dad. And nobody's going to stop that. Nobody's going to silence me. I'm going to show it truthfully and honestly to my kids in the home. And when I mess up, I'm going to apologize. Right? Another thing that triggers a lot of fathers. Oh, tell your kids you're sorry when you mess up. I'm the authority. I'm the dad. I don't have to answer to anybody. You're not even answering to yourself. You're in the home controlling your kid, getting mad because they spilt the juice at the dinner table. But the government's over here with their hand in your pocket, taking 30% of your income, telling you where you can't fly to, and you're going to bitch about it on Twitter. Right? This is what gets you. These are the things that get you angry. Start making sense of your reality. Start focusing on the things that you can control, the things that you can actually change within your home, within yourself. And I guarantee you those other things that are not important will not take up so much space in your mind. They won't make you as angry. You won't be outraged. You won't lash out at people when they have a different opinion. You'll be actually able to talk about things, find solutions, solve problems, and cooperate. And that is exactly what we talk about all the time. That starts in the home with your kids. So you're seeing the exact opposite. You're seeing people who are raised in homes of dysfunction, emotional abuse, physical abuse, torment, fucking punishments, all this shit. And then they go out into the world and they show the world what they're about. Like, this is how I was raised. Look at me. Ain't I great?
Bro, like, you can see me smiling, obviously. I just flashed back. I came off one of these that Jackie had tuned into, and she's like, you guys are so intense. And I'm watching you, I'm like, why do we speak like this? Like, why the fuck are we both so amped whenever we talk about this shit? And I don't really have, we give a shit. Let's say righteous anger, but I'm looking at you. I'm like, man, this motherfucker's like crushing it. Yeah. I'm like, this is why nobody wants to hang out with us. This is why people are like, I don't want to talk about being a dad with you guys. Can we talk about anything else? No, we're talking about fatherhood and family. We're going to fuck the government, fuck all these people, freedom, family, focus, firearms, finances. Let's go.
And
all the F's. I got to jump into the chat for a second, though. Big shout out to Matt. He said, so many people are too scared to be who they are on the internet, which I think has bastardized the whole system. Proud to know men like you. Proud to know men like you, Matt. Honestly, having men come together who own their shit, that's one of the most important aspects to this entire process. Because if it was just Anthony and I, we'd be like, fuck, like, how can we do this? But when we do get those DMs, when we do roll with the FOE tribe, when we roll with the Dad Twitter tribe, when we roll with the Dad's Day tribe, which is starting to grow, which is pretty cool, seeing those familiar faces, we see individuals growing, we see the message spreading, and you can't help but sit there and be like, we can fucking do this. And if it has to come down to just the two of us, so be it. We will. But being able to see this growing, again, across, I want to say decentralized, but there's like a central network, but it's a decentralized system. Seeing this spread out, that there's no one head to chop off. Because if you come after us and Oak and Rock gets shut down, dude, there's like 15 other accounts out there. They're going to go and take it, and we're going to hop on them, cruise, and rebuild our shit and just do it again. So fucking, you can us. It's like a Hydra. Now I feel like I should start 2 businesses. We should start four new channels. Like, it's only going to get worse the more you try to repress it. Because that pressure cooker, while we said that it's bad for those who repress their emotions, for men who have righteous anger that's boiling over, and you put a lid on that, that's compressed and pressurized righteousness. I have more of a reason to spread this message further because you tried to hold me down, meaning you want me to not do it, meaning you're the bad guy, meaning I've got to go try even harder to overcome you. If you're an obstacle, I'm going to jump that shit and just take more momentum going forward. And so it's one of those things where the more I see people the more I see people support a system that oppresses what we're doing, the more I turn to those men who are pushing back with me and say, all right, guys, we really got to work together on this. Let's really get this shit done. Let's really lean into it. And so we push harder. And it's like, the phalanx with the Spartans, when they push on them, they all kind of take it. And then at one shot, they all push back and it knocks them on their ass and they stab them in the face. That's what we're doing here. They pushed back. We're like, fuck this. We're going to start a whole fucking brand focused on fatherhood. Y'all thought we were bad. We were just podcasting about it and just doing it on our own with Peaceful Fathers and the Family Alpha. Now you fucking we didn't even want to come together. You forced us to do this because you wouldn't stop fucking around with the kids. And I want to just throw it out to Kala. Big shout out to Kala. Make sure you are following this man. I've been watching his journey. He has been growing and improving fucking like leaps and bounds. So it's fucking incredible. Especially when I see you, Anthony. You and him have some shit going on too. We've been helping a bunch of dads. So that is cool as fuck to see how like interwoven it all is. He's in FOE. Y'all are building things. We're building things. He's been on here. It's just fucking incredible to see it working. But Kala says people are too scared of not belonging instead of believing who they are, which can create a community. I think that is going to be lost on the masses. I think they're going to read that as the opposite of not belonging. If I speak up, here's the thing. Trying to fit in with the conformists, you get lost there. You don't belong to anything. You're just another number. When you stand out, though, the people who stand up with you, they welcome you. Like I just said, Cal, I just listed like 10 things about him, because he stood up. Therefore, he's in my group. I want to know him. If he was just another number, a 1 or a 0, I would have no idea what the hell Cal meant. I wouldn't even know how to say his name. Like, hey, Kayla. And so you don't know them. But because you know the man, because he spoke up, you're a human being. You're an authentic man. I know who you are. You're a person. You're not repeating mainstream media. You're not repeating TV's talking points. You know more about what your kids bought and where they spent their time and their energy as opposed to how much money Elon spent on Twitter because your focus is on the right things. You're not distracted by all the distractions which are being put out there to keep you divided from your family. And so I think that you are absolutely on the money, but those who are still in the system and plugged in are going to completely miss what you're saying there.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who are highly distracted. That's the world we live in right now. And, when you think about the society we live in and how things change and how we have the power to control our own lives and be outside the system, right? Why would you want to be trapped in a system that's fucked up, trapped in a system that is draining the energy out of you? Like, why do so many people voluntarily want to be a part of that? And again, it's childhood, right? I'm going to keep going back to childhood, but that's what it is. If you're raised in a household or in a home that is dysfunctional, it's what it becomes normal. So when society, the people who control society, who are pushing the buttons and making you move left and right, they know what's going on. right? They understand. It's like marketing. It's like a big marketing scheme, and they make you move when they want because they know that you've come from a place again where you weren't yourself. You could never express who you are. You have no original thought. You can't think critically. Everything you've done up until this point was highly controlled by a parent who was emotionally unstable. And this is not everybody, obviously, but it's the vast majority. And I think when we break away from that, it's tough, right? When you get out of the system and you start saying, I'm going to speak my mind, I'm going to go on my own path, I'm going to be my own man, people will try to tear you down. They'll try to break you apart because it's like you're leaving the plantation, right? You no longer have the slave mindset and you need to be a part of something that's dysfunctional, but you're going to go and pave your own path. You have to do that as a man. If you don't do that as a man, as a father, what are your kids going to see? Right? What options are for them? Are they going to be like, hey, I'm going to do what dad does. Speak out, be honest, be open, connect with good people, or I'm going to go surround myself with shitty people who are over 50% is obese, 50% is on medication. None of them have $100 in their bank account for an emergency. But that's what I want to belong to. That's what I want to be a part of. You don't teach your kids to belong to that bullshit. You keep showing them the examples, and and I think with men like Kala and you mentioned Justin before, there's a certain level in my life where I got to where I started to be around people who were better, who wanted more in their life, people who demanded more, and those are the people who see the good in other people. Right? They're not always picking people apart and telling you what you did wrong. And that might seem like what we did here on this show. But the message, right, is that we want men to improve. We want you guys to be better. We want you guys to experience the best you can in your life. And the cost of it is just being who you genuinely are, right? Being authentic, being real. And you can't hide from that. You can't run from it. And I guarantee you, if you're a dad and you're feeling trapped, you don't know what to do, you're not happy with your life, you hate your wife, your kids suck, your boss is a piece of shit, just have enough courage. It was mentioned before in the chat. Just have that courage to fucking reach out to somebody and say, hey, man, I like your message. I appreciate you speaking out. That resonated with me, right? I'm going through this. And if you sit down with Zach or I at one-on-one, we're not going to chew you apart. We're not going to point out all the bad shit you do. We're going to genuinely want to help you and help you see things where you might not notice you're doing it wrong, where you might need to improve. So just to make that clear, with all the rants tonight and all that righteous anger, there is the other side to it, right? It's men really devoted to helping men become better fathers.
At the end of the day, I think that's exactly what it's about. The government, society at large, the crabs in the bucket, they are telling you the life you're allowed to live. You have to live this way. This is how it works because this is what we're all doing. When you find those who popped their head out, when you see the guys who are walking, they're going against the stream, you're going to find some people who want to help you get the life you've always wanted. Not the one we want for you, not the one society wants for you, the one you want for you. And I think I'd be hard pressed to find a man who would not want a home that was connected, would not want a spouse that was there was genuine love, attraction, enjoyment of one another. A profession where your job was just a job and it paid the bills, or you could find a job that aligned and that gave you a sense of purpose. We were speaking earlier, Anthony. One of the things I wish I could give every single man is that feeling of when you wake up and knowing, like, I know why I'm here. I'm so glad I woke up another day. And only then, only when you're able to stand against the crowd and feel some confidence and comfort, not being supported, but standing there by yourself, willing to take on whoever's going to come after you, saying, that's how much I believe in this. My righteous anger, like, I have to do this. That's where my energy comes from. Then you'll understand that in the land of conformity, authenticity reigns king. I walk around, my kingdom is filled with light and connection and hope. My friends are strong and squared away. My family, my extended family, is thriving. We're connected. There's nothing in my life that I look at, I'm like, oh man, that really sucks. I really got to fix it. No, I've done all the work. I've done everything that I had to do. I've worked with people who are going to support me in my mission of going where it is I want to go. And you can say the same exact thing. You could repeat everything I just said. You know, you could have everything that you want, but you've got to stop trying to be what everybody else wants you to be. Until you can do that, you're never going to get there. You're going to live in the world where 2 + 2 = 5, and you're going to be pissed off and emotionally flailing because you don't understand why it doesn't make sense. But it's because you're in a world that doesn't make sense. Those are their rules. In this world that we're operating in, there's order, there's purpose. It makes sense. We test things. If it doesn't work, we throw it away. We don't just do things because it makes other people happy. We get rid of it. We get rid of people. We get rid of things. We take the emphasis off of certain things and put them on other ones. Again, I just said a job's just a job. There are people who give more time to their boss than their family. What the fuck are we doing? You know, and we've just had a discussion. We've been there. But you have to evolve. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having a perfect resume. My resume is like a roller coaster, man. I've had great decisions. I've made terrible decisions. I've done everything in between. And I found my way to where I'm cruising. And not cruising in the sense I'm complacent, but I've stopped the peaks and valleys. I'm at a point where I'm like, this is where I like to be. This is good. I'm connected to my family. I'm connected to my friends. I'm connected to my mission in life. And I'm driven, even though that I'm saying I'm happy with where I'm at. You know, that righteous anger, there's still so many things I see wrong with the world my children are going to be entering that I want to try to do my best to pave a path, not to make their life easier, but to get unnecessary obstacles out of the way. There's no reason my kids should have to face certain shit that I could handle on my own. If I can square it away now, if I can stand up to it, like I said, something as small as joining the Parks and Rec committee in my town, something as small as that. I'm not running for president of the United States. I'm just volunteering. Hey guys, I want to help you with this town. How can I make this town better? How can I help with the school? How can I help my children and get involved in what they want to do? That's what I'm doing in my social circle. And then I throw it to the broad circle, Fraternity of Excellence, Oak and Rock Fatherhood, the Family Alpha, these things going, Four Bear Clothing Co. I stole one of my wife's tank tops today for this because I didn't want you to show me up. You got these things going. You're going to find out you're capable of doing so much more and being so much happier with all the things you have going on, where right now you're doing less and you're sad about it. And so what I'm saying is I want to get you to do more and be happy. But all it takes is you reaching out. And like Anthony said, that does take courage. I don't think it takes any courage for me to sit and do what we're doing right now. I'm just talking about my family and my beliefs and just kind of where I stand on certain matters. But for you to have that, to get over that hurdle and to say, hey, I need help. Hey guys, could you explain this a little differently? I didn't get it the way you explained it the first time. Could you help me with this? Or how did you do that? Or the heaviest one, guys, I'm failing as a dad and I don't know where to start to fix it. That's hard. Admitting that is hard. And to do it with a stranger or somebody that you've watched on YouTube or something, that's a difficult pill to swallow. But I promise you, and this is my Zac Small guarantee. If you do that, you reach out to Anthony or I or both of us and just put us in the same DM, we will get back to you and you'll be so glad you did it. I can say without a brag, but with an absolute fact, there are hundreds of men who can say, I'm so fucking glad I reached out to those two dudes. It has changed my fucking life and the entire trajectory of my children's lives. And so I'm going to leave you with that note. That's Anthony Miglorino. I'm Zac Small. Links to all of our socials are below. Links to the Fraternity of Excellence are below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. This has been another one from Oak and Rock Fatherhood.